Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of my series in which we are making a creature capture RPG in the engine Construct 3. So we've already started. This is a bit of a kind of a strange series. It's not a series where I'm gonna literally like tell you step 1, step 2, and step 3 to get to the result. It's more like a series where I'm kind of dragging you along my process of making this game. So I understand if it's not going to be kind of like for everyone's taste. I see it as a kind of an intermediate tutorial on how to approach making a small game in this engine, which is an engine that I have been teaching for multiple years. So without further ado, today let's just look at the project that we created in episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, and let's recap and see what we have to do now. One thing that I really want to do is a sort of an NPC kind of character, which I'm going to work on probably today. Right now we have this setup where we have multiple enemies. They are all roaming according to their own internal timer. This green box, there's just a generic thing I put there just for the sake of it, because let's say we go in a fight, this is going to be the fight mode eventually, and right now we can simply kind of flee and then we'll get to the same place in the world. So I wanted to have this effect where we can kind of preserve our original location, which is what you expect as a gamer, as a player, sorry. So then we also have this transition system, which works pretty well. And while you're transiting, you can't really move right now, it seems. Yeah, you have to kind of release and repress the key, so that's fine. This map is a bit different in shape, but otherwise these are just, oops, press twice. These are just there for testing purposes. They're not going to be like the final actual maps. I'm going to eventually make simplistic kind of art for the game, but for now I'm just making the prototype framework. So yeah, I want to work on the NPC and eventually kind of develop a rudimentary kind of battle system. I'm still thinking about how I want to make the battle system, because I want to make this game quite interesting on the mechanics part. I don't want it to be like a straightforward kind of Pokemon. I want it to be kind of a merge between a Pokemon, but also like these kind of trading card game that we've seen. So I want there to be a kind of a board where you can put multiple of your creatures. Also, I haven't really followed up with Pokemon at all. I literally never played these games except when I was like 9 years old on the Game Boy Color. So this is my reference for building this. All right, so let's just lock this, make it invisible because it's kind of getting in the way. And I want to maybe create a folder called enemy, and that way I can kind of put these things in it. The big player art goes in player, the enemy art goes in enemy. Entity shadows is just a generic thing, and all these other things for now are also just generics. So we'll also make a new sprite called NPC, or base. I wonder if NPC is really the word I'm looking for, but I won't overcomplicate it for now. Base NPC. Oh, there it is. I don't know. Did it get added? I didn't see it get added to the level. That's strange, but it's here. Okay, let's just drag one, and we didn't even get in draw mode. That's unusual. Okay, let's do it 32 by 32, and let's pick the paint bucket, the fill, right? And we'll do this one 0, 0, and 255 in the blue. Just check out its origin, make sure it's right in the middle. Check out its collider, make sure it's a square. And that's about it. Just close this. This is going to be a base NPC, so let's give it 20% opacity, and actually let's just place it in the objects. going to be what we are going to be doing from now on as a base principle, just to simplify things in the long run. So I'm also going to duplicate, so clone the player art, make a folder called NPC, and I'm going to put player art 2 and base NPC there, and rename this NPC art like that. I'm going to double click on NPC art, and I'm going to pick the fill, and I'm going to add 255 to the green channel, and just kind of paint this like that. And I'm going to pick the pencil, what also hotkey is N if you ever want to press that. And I'm gonna go and put 255 in the red so we get to a blue. And I'm just gonna make a little face, kind of like a friendly face. All right, I'm gonna drag this in, and this is gonna be kind of like this one is gonna be part of the hierarchy. So there's gonna be a hierarchy between these objects. So how it works is you click on NPC art. This is the child that's going to be added to the last one that you click on, which is the parent. And then you right click, you do hierarchy, and you do add selection to this instance. And that's going to create an arrow like this, an arrow, and that's super useful. Allows you to have access to an extra menu there where you can configure the relationships. And yeah, that's really great. It also makes it so that when you spawn the base NPC, you will have an option to create the hierarchy of that base NPC. And I believe that also distinguishes between different templates. So templates are a way for you to kind of customize the base NPC with different kind of hierarchies, and then you can, it's really powerful, the system overall. So I think you get the idea, but we'll be using that for now. So base NPC, NPC art, and I'm also going to make another sprite, or actually, I mean, it could be a good idea to make it with a sprite, I guess, because you could also make it with a line of sight, but I think maybe it's better with a sprite. It's more visual as well, so I'll do a sprite, and we'll call this interact range like this, and insert, and I'm going to click and make this object 96 by 96, which if you think about it is 32 times 3. That's not irrelevant. I'm also going to activate the grid, the pixel grid that was set up in one of the early episodes. I'm going to pick ellipse and make sure I have a white color. And then I'm just going to pick, actually I don't want a white color. I want some sort of other kind of color, 55 there and 200 in the blue. That's gonna make a kind of a mix, close to that normal pure cyan, but with a little bit more of a teal cast in terms of color spectrum. And this border thickness, let's make it around 5, and we'll just click around here and hold. Oh, actually we need border, not fill. And we'll click here and kind of hold shift and make a nice circle like this one. And then with the origin, make sure it is in the middle. And with the polygon, we're going to do something unusual. So we're going to go with the polygon and then right click, and we're going to say guess the polygon shape. And you see what happened? It has a pretty sophisticated kind of setup where it's able to kind of guess the general shape, and that's a pretty good expensive shape, but still not that bad. I believe we can always measure it, and maybe a line of sight is better, but who cares really, as long as the game runs well. So if it becomes a problem, but I really don't think so, we'll do something about it. So let's click on this one, interact range, and the base NPC, and right click and add them together essentially. And yeah, that's about it, I believe. And the interact range, Uh, should we? I think we can just keep the transform x and y so that we don't have to code an explicit kind of set position code event code. Unlike the NPC art, the NPC art will have to code a kind of code to sync up the two assets. The same way we did it here, update enemies. So we'll do a copy of that and make a new group called NPC. We'll paste that in and rename it update NPCs, like that. And something cool you can do is you can right click and replace an object. So you can say I'm going to replace the base NPCs in these events with base, I'm going to replace the base enemies with base NPCs, and I'm going to replace the enemy art with NPC art. And sometimes it doesn't always work, but using sprites, you can almost always kind of replace sprites one for another as long as all the variables are the same. So that's pretty powerful. I like to use sprite for that reason, because it allows you to kind of easily replace objects like that, which is really nice. All right, so anyway, the NPC won't be moving. We're just gonna spawn one through a little function. Let's build a function because I like this way of having a function to create something, kind of like a factory method. NPC, I like to call them spawn NPC, and add a parameter called X and a parameter called Y. And then it's basically the copy of this block, so we can copy that and replace. Since there's only one object, which is base player, it doesn't ask us what to replace, it just asks us by what to replace it. So we can choose base NPC, and that's it. Create hierarchy to true. So basically, let's just create one here. Okay, we'll just copy this position and ask our game to create. I'm sorry, our game to create it. Sorry, this is something I have to deal with. Give me a second. All right. All right, so sorry, I was just drinking some water. We're just gonna call a function spawn NPC at 80 240. Sorry. Oh, and now we have it's also created on the other map, so that's something we'll have to deal with pretty soon. And there we have our little NPC. So we're gonna make it so that this little radius around it, when you get in the radius, it's gonna activate like a little bit of a UI where you're gonna be able to converse with this guy. And obviously these assets that I made are meant to be kind of hidden eventually. They're just there as kind of outlines. Something we can do is show the polygon collision polygons. So that's really useful when you're building the game. That way we can really see that there is a collision there. And we can put the opacity pretty low, like this. All right, that's pretty cool. So let's just build a layer called UD dialog. UD dialog. We'll make that a global. And basically, I'm gonna insert a new object, and I'm gonna pick a 9 patch. I'm gonna click, make an object that is 96 by 96, and I'm just gonna pick this rectangle tool. I'm gonna go ahead and pick a kind of a beige color. There's gonna be a UI, and I'm gonna just draw a full square about like this, and then I'm gonna erase some of the corners. So I'll do something like this. With a brush that is of size 12, I can kind of cut these corners like that. Then I will pick the rectangle border, and I'm gonna pick a darker shade of the same. I'm gonna put the thickness at 2, and I'm gonna make a square like this. And then I'm gonna pick the pen, pick the eyedropper, pick the pale color that I used before, take the pen, and just paint the corner of this box. Oops. Alright, perfect. And finally pick the rectangle and pick a little bit of a darker shade and just make a thickness of 1 border inside, like that. Perfect. And finally, I'm gonna pick like a different shade, greenish, make it pale, and with fill, no border, inside with the shift key, I'm gonna make a square, kind of like this. All right, perfect. So if we remove the grid, we can see what we have, a little bit of a UI. It's only 96 by 96, and it's a 9 patch, and I'll show you what you can do with this thing. I like to make some basic UI window with 9 patches, and then you can just update them. So the idea is that essentially we can look at this as a 32 by 32 grid, and we'll see it better. So a 9 patch is divided in 9 sections, so that's what we're seeing right now. Let me just bring my Epic pen. So yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Thereby the name 9 patch, essentially. So this is my glucose thing. I'm diabetic. Just a little bit of an annoyance, but nothing to worry about. I just ate, so it's a bit high, but nothing to worry about. So yeah, the 9 patch, the name comes from here. They're adding 9 sections like this in your image, and essentially you can configure how big the edge images are going to be in terms of thickness. So in our case, if we think about it, if we pick the selection and we remove the snap, basically we can measure how thick it is. Here for us it is 16 pixels, which is perfect. Yeah, 16. So I think keeping it as default is fine, but if you made a different image, you might want to change these margin values. And then I like to put my fill as a tile, stretch, and my edge as tiles. And then you can kind of stretch this image in any way you want. Sorry, let me just clear the screen. You can set this image any size you want, and it's gonna keep a nice ratio between the border and the kind of interior of the whole UI element. So there we have our HUD dialog. If we press play, it's here. You can see what happens. It's pretty neat. So the image gets kind of properly stretched, and what's nice with the 9 patch, a little bit like the tiled background, is that it's an object that doesn't take a lot of memory space. We got in a fight. So it's an object that doesn't take a lot of memory space. It's very light because it's very small, and then it gets kind of built by the engine. Okay, so the UI needs to follow. So HUD dialog needs to be 0, 0, 0, 0 of parallax. All right, it also needs to be invisible anyway. So let's make it HUD dialog. Let's make all of that by default. Let's uncheck initially visible. All right, so now we just need to create something where when we are on this interact range, we check out the associated kind of NPC, and then if that NPC, I guess all NPCs are gonna have dialogue. Yeah, maybe not though, but for now, let's just make it simple. So if you overlap, it's gonna load some sort of NPC dialogue. So for this NPC dialogue, I'm thinking about possibly kind of using some sort of either a JavaScript or at least JSON eventually, but I don't know for now. So for now, what we'll do is we'll just keep it simple. Oh, my cat is sorry. So yeah, we're gonna basically keep it simple, and I'm just gonna put an instance variable called dialog line test, so we know it's not the actual thing. And string, I'm gonna say, hey, how are you doing, friend? So this is just to test things out, okay? In the dialog, I'm gonna turn that visible again, and I'm gonna create a new text, okay, on the dialog HUD. I'm gonna put a template on it and say this is a dialog text. I'm gonna make this bigger. I'm also gonna make another copy of that and call that one dialog player name, or dialog name, maybe something like this. And I'm just gonna put some other fonts for now. So I'm gonna allow load some other fonts. Oh, I have some cool fonts here. Oh, it's kind of able to load the fonts from my system. This is pretty cool. So I'm gonna take this font for now. And here I'm also gonna take another font. That's really amazing that it's able to check out all the fonts from my system. I'm very impressed by this addition. Sorry, so much disturbance. So yeah, it's pretty cool that they're able to do this at the at their team essentially. I don't know how it's pretty impressive how the browser have access to stuff in our computer nowadays. They're able to pull things in from our computers. All right, so I'm just scrolling through trying to find a font. They're all pretty bad. I just want something temporary like this. All right, let's make this bigger. So yeah, this is going to be the dialog text. This is going to be a dialog name. So there's going to be two of these. This one, actually we should say this one is dialog name L, and this one is going to be dialog name R, and they're going to be right aligned in terms of horizontal alignment, like this. And I'm also going to change its origin to top right in this one, like this. All right. So when we overlap with the sphere, we're gonna make our dialog UI visible essentially. So in the overworld code, I'm gonna simply add a sub event and say, how did I do it for the enemy? I started with the base player, so let's do the same. Let's say the base player is overlapping another object, interact range, and then let's say add a sub block and interact range, pick parent, pick the parent base NPC. This is never going to trigger if there's none of it. This, since it's kind of like a JavaScript based engine, it won't throw an error or anything. It will just not do it. So that's kind of useful in a way, since it's kind of totally safe. So if we're overlapping interact range, we pick the base NPC, and then we are going to go in system. Actually, we also need to check in system. I don't know if that's actually useful, but we can check if a layer is visible, and we can already check if this is visible. And if we press I, we can make sure that this only happens if the HUD is not already visible, and then pick the base NPC. And basically, system set layer, set layer visible. So we're going to set this layer HUD dialog to be visible, and we are going to also here we're going to also add another condition and say system pick by comparison, and we're going to pick a text by its template name. So text dot template name is dialog text, and we're going to say that this text set its text to the base NPC. Oops. What was it? It was not dialog something. Oh, I put it on the art. That's stupid. Delete. Sorry. Let's just copy the message first. And let's add dialog line test on the base and paste the message. All right, so we're gonna say that the text set text to dialog base NPC dialog line test. We're gonna make a sub block and put this as part of a sub block because we'll need two other, one for dialog name L and dialog name R, and L will say player for now, and this one will say some sort of name. So I'll put the NPC name Bob, and we'll say base NPC dot NPC name. Oops, wrong layer. So now if I just start this and I go here, it says player and Bob are speaking, and it says hi, how are you doing, friend? And now if I move off, it doesn't go away, so I need to add that as well. So this is gonna be the same thing. It's just gonna be if it's not interacting and the HUD is visible, so you can use the I key to switch between an inverted or not inverted state for your conditions there. So that's quite useful. And it's just gonna say this is it's gonna be invisible. That should be enough for our purpose. All right, so now the problem with this system is that it's going to be pretty tricky to make multiple different NPCs, but at least we know that the UI is working. So that's one thing that has been completed. We're just going to improve something. It's just one last thing I want to improve. Instead of saying set text, I'm going to say set typewriter text, sorry. And I'm going to give a duration here that's going to be len, and then I'm going to copy this whole thing. So the length of that text multiplied by 0.04. Okay, so we're gonna do that. That's gonna come in to be useful later. It's gonna make it so that the text gets typed essentially, which is a bit more cool, if you want my opinion. All right, that's really great. I wonder if there could be something that we could do eventually to improve the dialogue. One thing I would like to try just now is just to see. It's going to be pretty rocky, but I'm going to see set layout scale, and I'm going to scale the layout to 1.5, and here I'm going to scale it back to a 1. I just want to see what happens. All right, very interesting. So that's obviously not what we want, but I was just wondering what kind of effect it would give, because I would like eventually to have some sort of focus. And also we just saw that there is a kind of an overlap situation. This is something I was wondering if there was an overlap situation, and I think it can be easily solved in the enemy code. Here, when we say move, we should probably say as well, we should say base enemy can move. Can it move? Can move to. Can it move up by its base enemy tile movement speed, I think? I'm not sure actually. Let's say it manually, 32. Because I want to see if they're gonna avoid doing it, because that's my goal, is that this will prevent enemies from walking over stuff that they're not allowed to walk over. All right. So they should they should still be walking. But now I think they can't walk over us anymore. I believe it's not possible for them to walk on top of us if we're just standing, right? Oh no, they definitely did walk on us. But I think that's because we're not solid. Okay, so maybe all the base should be solid. I wonder what would happen if we did that. Let's try it. So in the object here, we'll make all the base. So this one will add the behavior solid. The base NPC will add the behavior solid as well. And then the base player will add the behavior solid as well. So that should make it so that it's not possible for us to literally walk on top of something else. Yeah, okay, that's what I want. I want no possible overlap. Oops. And then we fight. Oh, but now we are not. Oh, that's interesting. It's not possible to. It's not possible to gray out an enemy anymore when we leave. So that's going to be a problem. We'll need to fix that. I think I have an idea. If we go in each of these and we activate the grid one by one with a snap edge, like this, and we go to the collision, we should make these collider a bit smaller. So I'm going to make one, reduce it by 2 pixels, and then I'm going to copy the collider. Allow. And I'm going to go in base NPC and I'm going to paste this. It didn't work. I'm just going to redo it manually. It's strange that it didn't work. I thought I said yes, but maybe I said no. So we're just gonna do it manually. Also, sometimes these kind of pop off, or in previous versions they would not save, or they would kind of break down. So make sure you double check that they're properly set. But I have a feeling they've been reworked. They seem a bit more smooth nowadays. Alright, so now that we have done this, let's just see if I'm able. Oh, so it doesn't work obviously because they're overlapping. And I didn't zoom out. I don't know why. Okay, so we have a few issues. Oh, we should probably do that so that the order is proper. Not sure why there's an enemy on it. It's a bit odd. I want to see if they are gonna walk on me. I think since I'm solid now, they won't walk on me, I believe. Alright, so can we also... Oh, we're just pushing these now. Oh my god, that's so wacky. That I just discovered something really strange. Why is that happening? That's so weird. It's strange. Why am I pushing them? I guess let's just try something. Let's try to remove solid from the player. Alright, it seems like it's working now. I don't know. But there's still like it's not possible to gray them out, I think. Alright, I don't know about this solid thing. Not sure it's a wise choice. Maybe instead we can kind of like because anyway I'm gonna build a little bit of a kind of a matrix to track where different kind of entities are and stuff, so something like that. Maybe some sort of array that can kind of keep track of everything. So I don't know if I really need to rely on the built-in collision, because I really like the ability to gray out the enemy like this. I don't want to get rid of that. And by making everything solid, it seems like it's kind of interfering with my my goal there. So instead, and let's end with this solution. We're gonna use something called in the base enemy. We're gonna say overlapping at offset, and we're gonna check if it's overlapping a base NPC at some sort of offset. So we're gonna check if it's overlapping it at -32 or 32, and in this case, if he wants to go left, -32 on the x-axis and right 32 on the x-axis. And this has to be false for the NPC to move there, for the enemy to move there. So I believe now the NPC will never, the enemies will never move on an NPC, and we won't rely on the solid behavior. which was kind of annoying. I guess we can work on the NPCs. It's not a big deal. Something that I was wondering about is adding additional code for this part here, and making it so that if we're kind of like jumping, we can't enter a battle. So what I want to do is I want to add an extra line of code here for my player. I'm going to use the platform simulator, and I'm going to say, is the platform simulator, is it jumping? Or actually, I'm going to say, is it on floor? It has to be on the floor for this to be possible. So that's going to make it so that I can jump and avoid triggering the fight, which is going to make it way more cool and gives this jump ability a use, essentially. So that's something I had in mind. I want to I also want to make it so that if you fall on the enemy, it triggers the battles. So we're also going to make it so that when the platform simulator unlanded, when it lands, we're going to check if we are overlapping a base enemy, and we're also going to check if the base player, we're going to check its y-axis, and we're going to check if its y-axis, if it's kind of like greater than the base enemy y-axis. I think I'm going to use that for now. And this is going to be a sub block there. And depending on this condition, else, we're going to have two scenarios. One scenario is going to be this, which is going to be now a function, enter battle phase. We're going to call this function enter battle phase. If we are, let's try it like this. I need to reason about this axis thing. Okay, so let's use the axis pen. So if the player, this is the player, this is its x-axis, and this is the enemy, its x-axis. So this enemy, let's say its x-axis is 700. The player will be 600. Oops, sorry. The player will be at 600, for example, and then it's going down and it hits the enemy. It has to be above the enemy height, but that means it has to be less, because the number gets bigger the lower we go in construct and in 2D programming in general. So we need to check if it's less. Actually, if it's less, it means it's above. So I'm going to go ahead and check if the base enemy is less, the base player is less than the base enemy in terms of y-axis. It means that we're above. Player is above the enemy, and player is below the enemy. All right, and I'm gonna also give a +8 to this value, so there's a little buffer. Okay, and this is going to be enter battle phase here, and this is going to simply pick the base enemy and destroy it. Let's just see what happens if we do that. And now basically if we land on something, like this, we get in a fight. Oh, they're all gray. I don't know if you saw that. They're all gray. There's a problem there. You're going to need to check this out. Okay, so that might be too easy actually. Let's just make it the normal y-axis. Maybe it's even too easy. All right, we got in a fight. I believe it's too easy, so let's make it a -8. Anyway, won't kill them eventually. It's just to try things out, see how 2 effect would work. But what I really want is a kind of a Mario and Luigi effect where you can kind of enter a fight by stunning enemies, by jumping on them eventually. So I believe the problem with this is that kind of like the image points is in the middle. So what I really want is a bigger discrepancy, like minus 24 maybe. That would make it much more hard. Like there I wouldn't in a fight. Maybe it's too extreme actually. Minus 16. Yeah, minus 16 seems like a good bit. Alright, so that was borderline, I guess. Okay, so I managed to get it. And then I got, okay, so that seems like a good number. Yeah, I like this one. And anyway, eventually we'll have some art and effects and stuff. So let's just go with this for now. We're gonna have this, we need to remove this zoom thing before we wrap up. Here, let's just disable that so we know that we were thinking about it. Let's not forget about it, and let's save everything. I'm gonna wrap up with this this episode for today. I hope you liked the episode. We have a few issues that we are gonna need to resolve in the next one. So one of these issues is that this NPC will also appear up here, and it's gonna be exactly the same NPC. So we're gonna investigate how we can kind of improve the situation. And also here we don't have the layer. The layer is not present, so we need to make sure that this layer, which is already global, is also going to be present here, like such. There we go. And now we also have this here. I don't know if it's going to go on top of this NPC. Let's check. No, I feel like it's trying, but it's failing. It seems like it didn't go. That's great. Also need to prevent these from roaming off screen. There's a lot of issues. Maybe we'll need to start a little bit of a to-do list or something to do. Yeah, just a reminders. And this file, the text, we don't need it. Fix enemies going off screen. All right, let's save that. And that's gonna be it for today, everyone. I hope you liked the episode and thank you for watching. Bye bye.